In this episode, we'll be meeting a modern-day Indigenous artist who has embraced his culture and heritage to help teach and educate the wider community about our First People. The Didgeridoo, or Yidaki, is one of the most recognisable instruments in the world because of its long, mesmerising and hypnotising drone. Watch as I learn more about how the Yidaki is created and why it's more than just an instrument. No, thank you for being part of this interview with me. We were talking before about how you came to work recently. Obviously, we worked together, and that's the first time that I saw you playing the didge. And from that moment on, was sort of when I had the idea of starting this interview series of mine. And yeah, when I saw you play and heard you talk a little bit to me about it, that's when I was really interested in getting to talk to you more about you creating your didges. I found it really interesting.
Yeah, no, it's always great to spread the word and kind of educate people on the history of the Yidaki or the Didgeridoo.
So what made you start creating them yourself? What made you start building them?
So back in the day, I never really had much to do with culture. I was more like at school, hang with mates, and then when I moved to Geelong, Geelong's a very cultural and orientated place. The community's really tight. And really culturally connected. And when I worked at Narana, the Aboriginal Culture Centre, they had like a rack full of didges, and it just kind of, I always wanted to learn how to play. And the didge player that was there, he moved, so Narana didn't have a didge player. So I was like, you know what, I'll go grab one and give it a crack. And I kind of used to play it as a kid as well, like using a vacuum pipe or piece of PVC or something that around the house when we were kids, and never understood the practice of it. So I kind of had to self-teach myself to kind of do all the basics and build myself up from there.
Yeah. What's the process in making it? Because there's obviously the playing side of it, but making it's like a whole separate task in itself.
Yeah, so it's really difficult because you gotta have there's different spots in the bush and that. Naturally, in the north, near northeast Darwin, near Arnhem Land. So there's a lot of termite mounds country. Whereas in Swan Hill, there is termites, but not as much heavily populated.
Yeah.
So we got to go out bush and look for trees that have been termite activity. So look for broken off branches or trees that have been hollowed out, and because termites leave little track marks. So me dad and me cousin Aaron, they've been my pillar in trying to learn how to construct and look for a didgeridoo. And so once we go out bush, once we find the right tree, I'll give it a knock because it's got a different sound because of the hollow.
Yeah.
And then once you find the right tree, always try and cut it above your head height, as high as you can cut it, where the termites activity starts, because they always go from the trunk up and then just go back down, go to the next one. And so once we cut it down, we dig it out as well and cut the trunk out, because people myself like to try and keep a good bell end, so the big wide end at the bottom of the Yidaki.
Yep.
And once we do that, then we go into the drying process.
And Yidaki is the traditional name of the didgeridoo itself. So
yeah,
we call it a didgeridoo, but it's a Yidaki.
Yeah. So didgeridoo is a Western name.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yidaki, there are other traditional names for it because it's also been traded and passed through different cultures in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria. It's just commonly known as didgeridoo as well.
Yep.
But yeah, Yidaki is or Yidaki There's different pronunciations.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's originated from Arnhem
Yeah.
in the northeast of Darwin, and the Yolngu people. There are a few other clans that it's passed through. Like there's Grandmaster. He's named Charlie Gunawini, so he's like one of the main like the storyteller of the Yidaki up north.
Yeah. And we're out before. Obviously, you were showing me how, the process of cutting down the tree, and you get those just like raw bits of timber, and the steps it takes to get to the final product, like your one. So there's like the chiseling, the drilling and all that sort of stuff, the sanding.
Yep.
That's obviously a big process in itself.
Yeah, so like the step by step quickly, it's so after you cut it down, after you dry it out, because there's different timbers that we use. So there's like bloodwood, iron bark, stringy bark, mallee. There are been known to be red gum didges, depending on the area where it's found. Black box, yellow box, grey box. Like there's a lot of different hardwoods that can be used to make a yidaki. And each wood is hard to work with because they have different grains, different bark. So you kind of have to understand the timber in itself to be able to create the instrument itself.
And get a different end result.
Yep.
Yeah.
So each kind of wood even creates a different like resonance off the wall. They can be thinner, lighter timbers or thicker, harder woods. So they kind of interrupt the sound a bit. So you got to hold them right out so they've got a thin wall.
Yeah.
Whereas your light timbers were a bit more better because it's like sort of like PVC piping away because they've got that straight thin wall.
Yeah.
It creates the same kind of sound.
Before our interview, Lyndon took me through the 3 main steps of constructing a yidaki. Firstly, after the trunk is cut down, the builder will be able to see the different grains and thicknesses of timber left over inside the trunk after the termites have done their work. When carving the mouthpiece or end, the builder has to be careful to leave enough thickness as to not cause splitting in the future from overuse or damage. In modern times, a chisel is used to carry out this carving, but traditionally it would be a sharp rock or stick. Small chips at a time are taken off to prevent splitting. The second main step is using a draw knife to shave back the outer layers of the trunk. Builders look for certain colours of the wood grain to know when they've sanded back enough. Again, traditionally sharp rocks were used to carry out this process. If splitting does occur at the ends of the yidaki, they can be sawn off, shortening the length of the instrument, but preventing the splits from travelling further up the timber. Sawdust can be used combined with glue to plug up splits, knots or holes inside the wood. The artwork drawn on the yidaki is carried out with a wood burning tool and can be specific to the artist. Lyndon's yidaki also has signatures on it from famous Australian musician Adam Briggs and singer Jessica Mauboy.
It's more than just an instrument as well, isn't it? Traditionally, it's more of a storytelling tool, whereas your style, considering that you picked it up later in life, is more of a contemporary.
Yep.
But what's the traditional sort of purpose of the yidaki?
So yidaki, I 100% don't know the original, because it's not from my culture.
Yeah.
Traditionally, it's from up north, and they have their storytelling and the ways they depict their sounds and the way they play. They have like a whole different style. It's like a hard style compared to mine. They have a different way of breathing, different way of playing, different way of using their body muscles. It's on a whole nother level. Yeah. Compared to what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it seemed, so natural to see you do it, but obviously there's, such a rich history and long history of it being used in this country.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy how there's so many different variations, and obviously in the Indigenous culture itself, every different spot has different cultural influences and dialects and different ways that they play. Yeah. The artwork on the Didge itself, is that something that it's different for each one, or it's personal to the maker, or?
Yeah, it's more personal to the maker. Now these days you'll see a lot of like contemporary art that just put on a lot of yidakis, like similar designs, but not telling a story. It's more for like showcasing for tourists and everything.
Yeah.
Like yidakis from north, they have their own kind of painting style as well that they use, like using cross hatching and like the X-ray kind of paintings of the ancestors and animals. I can't really define what theirs is because it's their stories for them to tell.
Yeah.
Whereas with me, I do kind of put designs on for my own reasons.
Yeah.
Like on my Didge, we have the pelican. So in Nudden it's Nori. So pelican, Nori means pelican.
Yeah.
And it's one of the totems in that clan. And my great grandmother, my nan's side and my father's side, Nudden. And then on my mother's side, we're Waddy Waddy. So it's more, we got different totems and different animals that we represent with different clans.
Yeah, absolutely. And how important is it to you to be able to play the Didge and represent that Indigenous culture?
Gives you a sense of pride. Like, even though I'm not traditionally playing it, but it's still keeping culture alive in a way. Like you're showcasing the instrument or the storytelling instrument to tourists and to the wider community to educate them properly on where it originated, making sure they get the true history of it and not just knowing it as a didgeridoo that just creates some kookaburra sounds and yeah, so just making sure the community itself is educated as well.
Yeah, and I feel lately, especially in Australian culture, particularly the last 5 years, the embracing of Indigenous culture in the wider Western society has come on in leaps and bounds, and I feel like it's people like yourself who are teaching, not necessarily the old ways, but still just the aspects of Indigenous culture that's really important. And I feel like people like yourself that are representing, that's getting the word out there, which is good for the wider community, especially just in Geelong or just at where we work together.
Yeah, definitely. Like we've become so modernised, westernised that we still want to keep traditional practices, but it's hard when you've got you got a lot of animals that are starting to become more extinct. You've got a lot of nature, climate change. There's a lot of things that we can't do anymore due to government practice, laws and policies, and we're starting to make there's treaties on par now, so we're not far off from creating our own treaty party and everything in Victoria, which would be the first in history in Australia.
Yeah.
And just mixing in with the community as well. We don't want to be against. We want to it's what reconciliation is all about.
Yeah, work together.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's the only way Australia's going to be a better place.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, well, look, thanks for letting me talk to you about your culture and your creativity in the work that you do in making didgeridoos, and thanks for being a representative of your culture and communicating with the wider aspects of what it means.
Always a pleasure to be here, Joe.
No worries, thanks, mate.